Hi, welcome to Books and Bocadillos. My name is Maria Andrea, and today I have a bit of a catch-up video. So, a few bookworm confessions here. Lately, I've been feeling a little bit overwhelmed by my own personal TBR. And because I've been overwhelmed with my TBR, I've been hesitant to watch TBR videos on BookTube, and I'm feeling extra hesitant to record any TBR videos. Why? Because it's daunting to commit to reading a whole lot. And I know that people record pile of possibilities, but I think because I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed, I'm not even wanting to commit in any way. Even though it's a pile of possibilities, you're not really committing. It's it's just I'm not feeling it, is what I'm trying to say. And I'm not sure how to say what I want to say. But I'm doing this catch-up video to kind of talk through my anxieties about TBRs. And because I'm also a slow reader, a dabbler, and a mood reader, it's really difficult to record a wrap up because if I'm lucky, if I have a good month, I probably have read one or two books to completion in a month. But I've dabbled in like 15. And maybe two books are completed, and I have like 13 still going and rolling into the next month. And that is just the reality of being me. And that's what I have to live with, and that's not going to change. So this is a chatty catch-up video telling you about what I read, what I'm currently reading, what I hope to read, and everything in between. So I want to start by talking about buddy reads, and I'm probably going to make smaller videos, and it's just going to be a chain of the conversation continues. But I want to start the conversation with buddy reads because buddy reads are really important to me, and that is what I prioritize each and every month. So I want to talk about the buddy reads that I had set up for February that I completed and still completing, and the buddy reads that I have pending for the month of March. So the first buddy read I want to talk about is The Symphony of Secrets, and this is a book by Brendan Slocumb, and I buddy read this with Melinda at A Web of Stories. And this was such a good book. I gave this book 5 stars. I am a fan of Brandon Slocumb's writing. I loved The Violent Conspiracy, which was his debut when I read it last May. I gave that 5 stars. The Symphony of Secrets is different than The Violent Conspiracy. You know, comparing them might be like a whole long conversation, so I don't want to get too much into the comparisons between the two books. But what I can tell you about this book, the reading experience of it was a lot of fun. It was fast-paced. There's a point when you get to like 2/3 in the book that you just can't put this book down. I listened to it on audio, and I messaged Melinda one day. I was driving to the grocery store, and I passed the street where I was supposed to turn to go to the grocery store, kept going because I was so immersed in the story that I lost awareness of my surroundings. And like about a mile and a half, I realized like, wait, my turn was way back there. I should have turned back there. So I, took the scenic route to the grocery store. I parked and I messaged Melinda and I was like, this just happened. I was so intrigued, so immersed in the story, and I missed my turn. That's a sign of a good book. Another sign of a good book is that, so the same experience with this book. Another time I messaged Melinda was like nighttime, and it was late at night, but I am aware that I'm like 2 hours ahead of the Pacific Northwest, which is the time zone that Melinda lives in. And I was like, oh, it's not as late there. Let me message. I just needed to tell someone I need to put this book down because it's late and I need to go to sleep. And if I keep going, I'm going to pull an all-nighter. Essentially, that's what I told her in different words, but I was like, I need to tell someone that I can't stop reading this book and I have to force my brain to put this book down. That's a sign of a good book. One thing that Brendan Slocumb does in his books that's really, really good that I really appreciate is his mentions of food. If I ever meet Brendan Slocumb in person, I want to talk to him about food and food in books. When I read the Violin Conspiracy, one of the things that won me over, and it's a tiny little thing, but the main character is at a cafe and he is having a vegan meal. And Brendan Slocumb describes that. And I was like, yes, I eat that too. And I felt a connection with the character. And that was nice because I don't get to experience that a lot in fiction. Yeah. Or in real life. I don't have a lot of vegan friends, so I don't get to experience that often where I feel connected to someone either fictional or in real life about food. But that was a fun experience. And in this book, The Symphony of Secrets, there are ways that Brendan Slocumb uses food. He uses food in like an illustration or a marker of like a point he's trying to make. So at the beginning of the novel, he's setting up this main character, this Black man who, as a child, wanted to be a musician, but was so poor he could not afford the instrument that he wanted to play. And he gets admitted into this Delaney Foundation. And the Delaney Foundation then is like the lifeline to get him to have like his dream of playing music, playing an instrument, come true. And he feels indebted to this organization for what they did to him. And Brendan Slocumb needs the reader to grasp just like the poverty that this kid comes from, and he uses bologna sandwiches to convey that. And just this constant referencing of bologna sandwiches is supposed to tell the reader, like, this is a lower socioeconomic status home life, and this is what this kid ate. And I found that really interesting. It set my brain like off into like thinking like flights, like where at one point I was thinking about my own experience, and I was thinking about how depending on country, culture, ethnicity, one would have a different marker or illustration. Like a different food would illustrate that experience, that low SES experience. And I was thinking about my upbringing. So I'm from a lower SES home. My home, like I was raised by a single mom. So it was a single female head of household, and we definitely experienced food limitations. My mom was chatting with me the other day, and she was asking me if I remembered how she would tell us that we didn't have money for a social life, that we couldn't eat at restaurants. And I was like, yeah, I remember that. But I also remember that when I was a kid, I would tell her, I am happy just with beans and tortillas. And as long as we have beans and tortillas, my heart and my belly are happy. So yeah, I mean, for me, like beans and tortillas, especially like beans on toast and frijoladas, beans and nopales, beans and rice, you know? Just that. So that would be the marker that I think for me, I would set as like a low SES food situation. But I'm curious, like, if you have any thoughts about food representation, um, food as an illustration of like economic status, privilege. Yeah, if you have any thoughts, just comment down below. So that's one way. Food is illustration. He also uses food to create connection. So in the present day timeline, you have this couple and they're friends, and the whole time you're reading this, you're asking yourself as a reader, will they, won't they? Is this a romantic plot that's like developing here? And every time this couple goes out to meet up, they have like these secret hideouts where they meet up and they confer on like what their findings are and what they're doing to like carry on with the investigation that they're pursuing. Um, they tend to meet up over pizza, and I find pizza to be very sexy and romantic. Um, so yeah, they're meeting up and they're having pizza, and that actually like inspired me. So I was reading this as I was planning like Valentine's Day, and our Valentine's Day reservations got canceled. The restaurant canceled the Valentine's Day thing we had planned. And I was like, let's have pizza. Let's do a pizza picnic. We'll throw out a blanket and have some pizza and watch a movie. So for Valentine's Day, my husband and I, we ordered some pizza, laid on a blanket, and watched Star Wars. And that was pretty romantic. And I was inspired by Brendan Slocumb in this novel. Brendan Slocumb also uses food illustrations to create tension or to illustrate tension. So I found that really fascinating. I liked it. If you can't tell, I really like this book. If you like a medium to fast-paced mystery and you're a music nerd, read this book. I think you'll like it. Okay. The next, and thanks, Melinda, for reading this with me. It was fun. Oh, I almost forgot. There's a scene in this book that I messaged Melinda about, and I think it's just worth sharing. So, also food as connection. They go and they visit a family to try to gather some information, and they get brought into this family's home, and the family member, like the family, they bring out chips and salsa, but they sprinkle Old Bay seasoning on the chips. And I was like mind blown. I've never had chips and salsa with Old Bay seasoning. So of course I had to try it, and I just got a bowl of tortilla chips and sprinkled Old Bay on them and then dipped them into the salsa. It's really good. It tastes like dipping a tortilla chip in shrimp cocktail. Anyway, I messaged Melinda about that. So thank you, Melinda, for just messaging with me and reading this book with me. And it was fun. The next buddy read that I had going on, here it is, Homegoing by Yaa Gyasi. And I am currently still in a buddy read with Chatty. And this is a great book. I'm still in it. I'll show you where I'm at. I read this and I have this left. So I don't have a lot left, but I told Chatty last week that I can't, we had initially said we're going to read this in chunks and we're going to probably finish in 5 weeks or so. But I cannot read more than a chapter a day. I just find each of these characters so compelling. So the way that this book is set up, it's like the story of two sisters that never meet each other. They're separated, and the two lines, the two lineages. And there's a map at the very beginning, and I'm constantly referring to it. So this is one sister, and this is the other sister, and these are their descendants. So each sister has 7 descendants in this book. So there's like 14 chapters essentially. And so each, well, 16, including the 2 sisters. There's 16 chapters, and each descendant, each character has a chapter, and each character's story is so compelling. Just a couple of observations I've shared with Chatty is that there's one sister that gets married off to a white British slave trader, and that sister's family seems to just primarily stay in Africa. As far as I'm concerned in my reading, that they've stayed in Africa. I don't know if that's going to change. And then the other sister gets captured and sold into slavery, and she gets sent off to America on a boat, lands in America, is sold into slavery, and then all of her descendants are in America so far, and you see them go from like the plantation to Civil War and beyond. And I was telling Chatty that the lineage, the descendants, the people that are in Africa, they are constantly reckoning with their privilege, their place in society, their role in slavery. And you see a lot of them like in their heads, like rationalizing their situation. And I find myself being more like in my mind, in my head, about these characters' experiences. The characters whose lives unfold in the United States and America, I feel them viscerally. I feel them in my gut. I feel them in my heart. I feel them in my throat. I feel them in my skin. I get the chills. So it's interesting how I'm interacting with these characters just in different ways. The experiences of the people that are sold into slavery and are, struggling, like, just overall with the injustices, with slavery, with oppression. It's felt like it doesn't happen here, it happens all over, and it's challenging. It challenges you. It challenges the reader. It challenges me. So because of that reason, I'm having to take one at a time and just kind of sit with it for a little bit and let it kind of like process through me. I'm really happy I'm reading this. I'm really grateful that I have Chatty to read this with. I wouldn't be able to read this on my own. I mean, I could, but I wouldn't want to read this on my own. If you're thinking about reading this, I highly recommend inviting a friend to read along with you, because you definitely experience this, or it's good to have someone to talk to about the experience of reading this book. It's a great book. This is likely going to be a 5-star book. I'm pretty sure of it. The writing is gorgeous. To me, the writing is perfect. It's compelling. It's very well written. It's an amazing work of literature. I think this, I'm not sure if anybody has named it a modern day classic, but I want to say this is like modern day classic. I hope this book is read in schools. I hope this book is read very widely. It's an important book. And I'm sad it's taken me so long to read it. This is not a new book. This is an old book. And there's so many people that have read this book. There's probably so many videos and reviews about it. And I'm just getting to it. There's no shame in reading when you read it. I mean, we all have different time. Books have different timing in our lives, in our reading lives. And I just think this is such a good book. Anyway, Homegoing by Yaa Gyasi. Thank you, Chatty, for reading this with me. And then a buddy read that I'm looking forward to in the month of March is Shark Heart by Emily Habeck, and I am going to be reading this with Crystal from Fiber Artsy during the Week of Weird. We're starting it during the Week of Weird, and I'm probably going to be reading it beyond. I don't know that I'll be able to finish it in a week. I'm going to try, but one can only hope. I have it on audio and ebook, so I don't have a physical copy to share with you on camera, but I'm really excited. It's about a woman whose husband is turning into a shark, so I think it fits perfectly with the Week of Weird. I actually tried to get my In Real Life book club with my friends to read this book, but they chose a different book. I guess I'll put that in now. So in my In Real Life book club, we're meeting at the beginning of April, and they chose to read How to Be Eaten by Maria Adelmann. And this is a support group, a therapy group for survivors of trauma. And the members of this therapy group are modern day fairy tale characters. So you have Gretel from Hansel and Gretel, and I think you have Rapunzel. I'm not sure. I haven't started it. I started it just this week, but I don't know exactly who the fairy tales are. But I think it's Gretel, and then the other ones have different names. I think one of them might be Little Red Riding Hood. So it's different female characters, but put in a modern day New York, and their experiences with trauma. And I think it's going to be a great read. I'm really excited. So I'll be reading that in the month of March. So that's it for, I'm just wanting to make sure I didn't miss anything. That's it for buddy reads and book club books. There are some events that I'm looking forward to, but I'll talk about that in a different video. So thanks for watching so far. I'm going to close this out and then start another video to continue the conversation. Thanks for watching the series of me chatting about books and catching up with you about what I've read and what I'm reading. See you soon.